Hey guys, Jamie at the Aquamarine channel, welcome back. So today I'm going to show you how you go about swirling melt and pour soap. So melt and pour soap doesn't really swirl the same as like a cold process soap would. You can't get as many like intricate designs or stuff like that, but you definitely can swirl it. And if you look at that soap, I absolutely love how it turned out. I honestly like the backs a little bit better than I do the fronts, but I do really like the front on this one. So the thing about melt and pour soap that you need to be careful about when you're swirling, and we will go over this in the video, is the temperature. So as you can see in this melt and pour soap, what I have is two different colors. We need to have both of those soaps when they're melted at roughly the same temperature. Now, when they're warmer, like when the temperature is higher, the soap is going to be very liquidy. Now that is not the time at all to do your swirl. You have to be a little bit patient and wait until it cools down so the soap can swirl without fully mixing together into being one color of soap. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to go over it way more in depth in this video and show you how I go ahead and how I swirl my melt and pour soap. I also put the full recipe down in the description box below. I also put a link to my blog, so on my blog I go a little bit more in depth about all the ingredients, why we use them, everything like that. Just a written post on how you would go about swirling your soap. Without further ado, let's dive in and make swirled melt and pour soap.
So what we're going to need to make our swirl soap is melt and pour soap. Now I'm using clear in both, but you can certainly use one with white and one with clear, completely up to you. We're going to need fragrance oil and mica powder. So to start, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop both of these in the microwave. Now you're only going to want to put them in there for like 10-second intervals and then mix them really well in between. This is because you want all of the soap to melt, but you want to do it without burning the soap. So make sure you do small intervals, 10 to 15 seconds at most, and then give it a really good mix in between. Now that I have both of these melted, what I'm going to do is go ahead and pop in the fragrance oil. And we're going to give both of them a really good mix. And at the same time, I'm going to go ahead and add the mica powder. And we're just going to go ahead, and mix that in there very well. Kind of poofed out of the container on me. Now, if you're having a problem getting that to mix in, if there's clumps on the top, spray it with a bit of rubbing alcohol, and it's going to break up the surface tension and allow you to get that mixed in. And always come through, scrape the bottom, hit the sides. And then we'll do the same with our copper one. Okay, and on this one you can see it a little bit better where it's not mixing in. A few sprays of rubbing alcohol and then it mixes in so much easier. So melt and pour soap, the warmer it is, the more runny or the more liquid it's going to be. So what we're tasked with when we're trying to swirl our soaps is we're trying to get both of these soaps to be roughly the same temperature, and we want to get them to cool down kind of at the same rate, so then when we do our swirl, it doesn't mix together completely. So the thicker it's going to be, the more defined of a swirl you're going to get. But you have to be careful because when you get too low of a temperature, it starts to set up. So there's a sweet point in there when it's starting to set up a little bit and it's getting a little bit thicker, and that's when you want to pour it. Now, if you run into a situation where one is getting a little bit too cool, what you can do is pop that one back into the microwave for a few seconds and then just heat it up a little bit because we want these both to be about the same temperature. So I have both of these about the same temperature, and I don't know if you can see here, but they're quite a bit thicker than they were when we first pulled the soap out. It's almost starting to gum up a little bit. So now we're ready to pour. Now the swirl is going to be based on how you pour this. So if you pour it together at the same time, or if you kind of swirl it while you're pouring, you have a lot of control in the swirl. You just want to kind of play around with it and see what type of swirl you like. Now, if you pour from higher versus lower, that's going to give you a different swirl than if you pour lower to the container. And I just heated up the bottom of this a little bit, so I'm just going to pour that on there. And then you want to spray your soap with rubbing alcohol. And this is going to pop any bubbles that you might have on the top. And we're going to allow this to cool completely. And then once your soap has cooled completely, we're going to go ahead and remove it from the mold. I hope this is cold enough. Oh, I like how that looks. And then I'll just remove the other one. And there are our swirled melt and pour soaps.
I really hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed making and using your swirl soap as much as I did. Bye!